Hello, friends and beautiful people. Let me tell you, I feel pretty happy, humid holiday. It is Independence Day, and on the farm, we're celebrating independence with our food independence. So I want to show you a little bit of what I've been doing today. So first of all, I harvested enough carrots for the hubs to put in the crisper. I don't, I rinse them off real well, take the tops off. We will actually, do a little better job when we eat them. I try to do as little as possible to them to help preserve them. And then over here, I harvested some more cauliflower. So we've been eating cauliflower all week, actually for a couple weeks out of there. And today I got out there and I panicked because it's so humid and hot. And let me show you what was going on. See from the side, this guy, that means he's getting ready to bolt. So that is an indicator, as well as, let me see here. I know I've got one where the little florets were starting to separate a little. And that tells you, hey, oh, here's a really good example. See how they're not as tight as this guy? That means we need to, and see, he's even starting to get a little crown on him. He thought he was going to bolt too, and we showed him different. So I did have to stick them in cold water. I don't have to worry so much about cabbage worms, but just in case there's slugs, and I got dirt all over them when I was harvesting them because I am like a bull in a china shop. So we've talked about this being a learning year for us as far as studying what these gardens were going to do. All of the ground around here, and the Amish even warned us that all of the ground around here is different. You'll go from clay to beautiful topsoil to shale. I mean, it's just, and lots of rock. So we knew when we were doing the garden that we were going to just accept what we could and then learn for next year. I've had people talk to me about, tilling and the no tilling video. We try not to till, but we had to till here. There is no way, let me flip this around, we could have afforded all of the compost to bring in because we didn't have any here. We just moved here to do all of that, and the one where the strawberries were. So it's a necessary evil this year. But let me show you kind of what I'm dealing with here. So here's a good example. We had storms last night, so it's really muddy. I can't get into weed very well, but I'm okay. It's, weeds are weeds. See these cucumbers? See how they look stunted? And actually the bucket spilled over here, but I just put more rabbit poo on. I put rabbit poo when we first planted them, and they're acting like they're stunted. Now there's a week, here I am walking through the mud. There's a week difference between, or maybe 2 weeks, those and these. Completely different. These guys have gone wild. I'm having trouble just taming them. We're about to have lots of cucumbers here. We got lots of, flowers going on. So far, no cucumber beetles, and I'm going to say that that's because of all this beautiful dill that I've planted. What is that on there? Not a cucumber beetle. Sweet. See, I can make myself panic like nobody's business. So this is the scene of the crime. What I did when I harvested all that cauliflower, because this area here is a hot mess, and this is full of crabgrass, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with this for next year, aside from cardboard and just trying to build up and go through. But I have got asparagus planted over there, and it's just going to be awful. So there's nothing good coming out of this right here, right now. So what I did, I stripped every leaf off individually and did the massacre. I emptied the coffee ground thing out of the pantry this morning out here. I mean, I've just been bringing all my guns out here. And when I strip the Brussels sprouts over there, when I take, a couple more leaves off when I do those come here. So here's where we started this morning. This is where the carrots were. And you can weed it today, and tomorrow it'll look like this again. And some of this stuff is just wicked. Now I did leave, you see I left one for seed. The The worst culprit here is that one that looks like purslane, this thing here. But he's got thorns on him, and you don't know it until you reach down to grab him. So all of this soil was like concrete. It was compacted. I mean, I'm literally coming out here and still trying to hoe around these onions, trying to salvage a little something. And actually, it's working. I mean, if you can see, they're coming out of the ground now, but I mean, they were just stuck in there. So I've really been concentrating on taking care of them. This lettuce is all bolted or bolting. So we're letting all of this go for seed. And this is where we got the beets from. So I've pulled all the beets that I had here. I'm going to go ahead and pull just that little bit, you know, just a lot of the weeds as much as I can. I'll definitely get that crabgrass there. We can't have him. But I want to show you. So this is what I've got. You saw the beets when they were in the ground. There's a couple of things that we learned from this. First of all, I did them in a square so that it would be like my raised bed. Well, when I was watering, it wasn't getting evenly watered. So I have some small beets, which is fine because what I do with my beets is I take all the small ones and put them aside, and I put those in a wide mouth large canning jar, a quart jar, and just do those as whole beets, and because we like them both ways. But then I have to find one. The rest of the ones around the edges and where they got really good water, they are too big. I mean, they're the size of softballs. This one is just a small one compared to some of those other beasts that are in here. I should dig one out. So what I will do, I will take all the weeds out of here that I can so that we don't end up with this there, because we will. When there's nothing there, that's a place for seeds to land. That's a place for Mother Nature to say, I can fill this up. Just give me a minute. We're not going to let her do that. We're going to do the same thing here that we did over there with the cauliflower leaves. I know I could eat some of the beet greens, and they're really good for you, but most of my beets are big, which means my leaves are going to be bitter. So what I'm going to do is chop and drop all of them down there too. Now I'm probably not going to can these guys today because it's 900 degrees. My sweat is sweating, and we're supposed to have a thunderstorm around noon. So if we do, maybe I will can them maybe later today, but I doubt very seriously that's going to happen. So I just wanted to show you how we're dealing. You know, not everybody can bring in, 4 acres worth of cardboard and, 7 truckloads of compost and be able to take care of all of this space. So for now, we're just taking it a small bite at a time. We're dealing with what we're dealing with. We know we've got weeds. We know we've got clay. And as we are able financially and, with what our composting, we're going to kick that up a notch now that we're finally able to and we've got all the animals. We'll be able to go ahead and start composting, but not enough for all of this, right? I mean, it's just crazy. But I'm bringing you down here because I do want to show you something. If you are looking across there, see how the coloration is different? We got that huge, crazy rain. And look, see all that? That's where we get stunted plants. Another good example of that are my tomatoes. So these are the Amish paste, and they're finally starting to go crazy. These are the San Marzanos, which really are my favorites. And these are the Genoveses. And look how small they are. It was like they just stunted. They just sat there in the ground and didn't do anything. So and then we planted, let me hear, there's one of those wicked plants that looks like purslane, but it's not. It's a false purslane. I forget off the top of my head what it's called, but it's not fun. So, and the same thing happened out there with the corn. And it's funny because where you see the tall stalks, that is where that darker soil is. And this part of this out here is where the parents who built this house used to have their garden. Now, the people we bought from did not garden. They gardened very little. So it's, And that's one of the things. You have to study the soil. You have to study where you're planting things. You need to know where you're going to have shade, where you're not going to have shade. Some plants like to have full sun, but like I've got my smaller tomatoes, they're going to get a little bit of shade from some sunflowers because I want them to ripen. And tomatoes do not like to ripen in the heat. All right, so I'll show you this because this is kind of fun. Here's my potatoes. Look, no tater beetles yet, knock on wood. And that's, I personally think it's because we waited to plant them. And then my castor beans are doing awesome. So Granny's legacy will live on. And that's it. That's all I want to show you. And you can look from here and see the difference in the soil. So I will actually just take some more pictures, keep them on my phone, and we will start with our composting right there and go back. And then we'll, I'll do more chop and drop. I've got some comfrey, but I don't have nearly enough. And as I harvest this year, I'm just going to be very intentional about, anything that's disease-free or bug-free, it's getting composted out there. We've got and it's probably just going to go right on the ground and just let it go. And, if we have to till it in when we, depending on how much compost we have for next year and what we can afford to do. But right now, that's the plan. I'm actually going to go ahead. I've got my pumpkins aren't coming up. I was gonna plant some of them out there, and I might just go plunk some in the mud before it rains again. And then my butternut squash is gonna go on this trellis here, and then I've got the drum gourds that I need to get planted, and I'm probably gonna plant those over in the one by where the strawberries were. I'll plant it up where it's away from those railroad ties. All right, friends, enjoy your independence, both for our country and your food independence. And until next time, be blessed and be a blessing.